Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Snakebite. Super excited for all that we have to talk about. Crossover season is coming up and we have a lot to cover on today's script. So let's roll that intro and get into this one. We got to start the show off talking about the women's basketball team, who is starting to look like they're getting closer and closer to the form we saw at the end of 2024. After our last show, we saw them take on number 20 Nova Southeastern in Fort Lauderdale and St. Leo into more down-to-the-wire games. And these two, we can't talk about them without talking about reigning SSC Defensive Player of the Week, 𝙏𝙃𝙀, who was a force on both ends over the two matchups, averaging 12.5 points, 12 rebounds, and 2.5 assists over the two games. In the matchup against NSU, the Mocs were led yet again by Sydney Gomes, who posted 19 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists in her 5th double-double this season. Alongside her was 𝙏𝙃𝙀, who got a double-double of her own with 10 points and 11 rebounds. Despite the Mocs' best efforts, the game ended in a loss of 69-63 for the Mocs, greatly due to troubles from the free throw line, where the Mocs shot 44% compared to their regular 76.8% coming into the game. Following the loss, the Mocs had their minds set on breaking up their 4-game losing streak, with Gomes saying fighting through adversity and really focusing on coming together right now will define the remainder of the season. And the Mocs had more adversity to battle through in the St. Leo matchup, as they were without Gomes, forcing the supporting cast to step up in the must-win game. And the rest of the Mocs stepped up big, with Lily Rangard and Catalina Ion finding their shot over stretches of the game to keep the Mocs even or ahead throughout the contest. In the back-and-forth battle, rebounds and runs became more and more important as the game progressed, making 𝙏𝙃𝙀's season high of 14 points and career high of 13 rebounds even more crucial to the Mocs' success. 𝙏𝙃, Rangard, and Bracero acted as the closers for the Mocs squad as they scored the final 16 points for Florida Southern to close out the 83-81 win. The Mocs will return to action Wednesday at 5:30 against Rollins College in the George Jenkins Fieldhouse. Pull up if you can, and if not, be sure to tune into the SSC Digital Network. I'll be on the call.
The number 8 men's basketball team has had a tough stretch over the last 2 games versus Nova Southeastern and St. Leo. The Mocs went 0-2 over their road trip, equaling their loss total through their first 17 games of the season. Against Nova, the Mocs had arguably their best offensive 30 minutes over the last few years, as they were hitting tough shots left and right. And with their offense firing on all cylinders, they needed a driver of that success, with Jaden Booth and Dominic Denny leading the charge, both having career days, with Booth tying his career high with 40 points and Denny having 23 points and 10 assists, both season's highs. Unfortunately for the Mocs, the games didn't end with 10 minutes to go in the second half. Nova showed their pedigree, surging back in a controlled, methodical fashion and coming up with a comeback 102-100 in the win over FSC. In the loss, Florida Southern scored and tied most points in an away game and most in a non-overtime loss in school history with their 112 points. The Mocs then looked to redeem themselves at St. Leo in a game where the Mocs expected to dominate, but St. Leo had different plans. Throughout the game, the Lions showed their fight, battling with the Mocs in the paint and being the first team all year to block out the Mocs, who lead the nation in blocks, in an incredibly physical game. This game, like the game versus Nova, the Mocs found themselves with significantly less free throws, allowing for St. Leo to stay close down the stretch. Like the game versus Nova, the Mocs and St. Leo both scored over 100 points, but it took 2 overtime periods. Unfortunately for the Mocs, due to multiple starters fouling out and struggles on the glass, St. Leo held on for the 102-100 win. The Mocs return to action Wednesday at 7:30 in the George Jenkins Fieldhouse as they look to get back on track. You can watch the game on the SSC Digital Network.
It was a busy weekend for both swim teams as they took on 2 top 25 opponents. Let's start off by talking about the men's team, where the number 16 Mocs defeated SSC foe number 15 nationally ranked Lynn University Fighting Knights 169-93 on their dual meet on Friday. The Mocs dominated in the individual events, winning 9 of the 12 in the competition, And the weekend didn't disappoint when the Mocs men took on the number 12 Nova Southeastern Sharks on Saturday, and this one came down to the wire. I had the honor of being able to call that game, and it was tense up until the very last moments of the 400 free relay. The Mocs unfortunately fell 131.5 to 130.5 due to the final event, where it came down to just a tenth of a second between the Mocs A team and the Nova's A team, as the Mocs were just unable to get over the hump. The Mocs men have their final dual meet on January 31st versus number 17 SSC foe Rollins College on senior night.
The women's team opened the weekend facing off against the number 10 Lynn University Fighting Knights. The Mocs weren't able to get the win as they fell 174-86 to the Fighting Knights on Friday. In the dual meet, Olivia Miles set a season best as she recorded a time of 10:38.33 in the 1,000 free. Sam Hunter won the 50 free for the Mocs with a time of 24:46, and the Mocs closed out the meet with Sales, Sykes, Reed, and Hunter finishing in second in 139.09. Like the men, the women had a competition the very next day against the number 4 and reigning national champions Nova Southeastern Sharks. Unfortunately, the Sharks were just too much for the Mocs as they won the meet 209-74. The Mocs will look to rebound as they take on Rollins College on January 31st.
The men's tennis team will open the 2025 portion of the season ranked 13th in the nation. This is their second best preseason ranking in 14 years. The Mocs will be tested early as they open their season against number 3 St. Leo on February 5th, followed by number 2 Flagler College on February 8th. The women's tennis team will kick off their spring season as the host of the FSC Invite on February 1st through the 2nd before SSC matchup against St. Leo on February 11th.
And Mocs hockey opened their spring slate of games with a busy 3-game weekend. The Mocs opening game was against the University of Central Florida Knights on Thursday in a rescheduled matchup. And Carl, this one gave me deja vu. The Knights opened the scoring with a goal late in the first period, which the Mocs responded to with a slap shot from the point by Will Marshall with 8:14 left in the second period. The Knights fought back with another goal before the Mocs found the back of the net twice in under a minute, giving them a 3-2 lead thanks to Marshall and Michael Wohl as they headed to the final minute of play. UCF would then tie it up with 5 minutes to go before Wohl found another goal to put the Mocs up with just under 7:30 to go. UCF looked to respond one last time, tying it all up with just under 2 minutes to go, and it would stay that way, sending the game to overtime. But neither side was able to find a goal, ending the matchup in a tie, just like the matchup in September. Florida Southern headed on the road for a matchup with the number 2 nationally ranked FAU Owls, where the Mocs battled but fell 8-5. Marshall was able to notch a hat trick in the loss, with Wohl and Colton Wyden each scoring a goal in the loss. The second matchup was another dominant showing for FAU, with the Mocs falling 11-3. The Mocs will have a 3-week break before they head to Miami to take on the Hurricanes for their second series matchup of the year.
This past Friday, the men's and women's track teams traveled up to Gainesville to compete at the Jimmy Carnes Invitational for their first competition of the 2025 portion of the season. The women's team started strong with top 10 times in the mile, with Emma Musante running 5:13 and finishing as the fastest non-D1 competitor. Grace Reed finished in 5:15 as well, placing herself also in the program top 10. In the 800, junior Caitlin Beery showed out, posting a time of 2:25 in the 8, good for 6th best in program history. And as you know, if you follow Florida Southern sports, the men's track team showed up and showed out, with 3 runners posting new program records in 3 different events. The first was freshman Daniel Welling. He took 8th overall in the 1,000-meter distance, a new program record of 2:32. Anthony Matthew then followed it up with a show-stopping performance in the mile, setting a new school record with a time of 4:08, also running the Division II provisional time for the event. In the later heats of the mile, Andrew Nyland broke Matthew's freshman record with a time of 4:16. But Anthony wasn't done yet either, and senior Simon DeVos was just getting started, as both dipped under 155 in the 800, with Matthew running 154.32 and DeVos finishing just behind in 154.60, the 3rd and 4th fastest times in program history. To finish out this record-breaking meet, junior Christopher Colavita broke his own indoor 3K record by 3 seconds as he ran 8:23, setting not only the indoor record, but also the overall 3,000-meter record previously held by Marathon Olympic Trials qualifier for this most recent Olympics, Mason Jones. Both the men's and women's track teams will be returning to Gainesville again this weekend, for the Rad Sports College Invitational, where they'll look to continue to break records and show who the best teams on campus are. And that'll be it for this week's edition of the Snakebite. Don't want to start too much drama talking about the best teams on campus. We all know I'm a little bit biased, but super excited for hockey to keep it rolling. Hopefully basketball can get back on track, and a lot more to cover next week. See you then on the Snakebite.